Hello, every pony. This is Vigilant Watch, and for this episode of Reading Rainboom, your slice of life fic is Letters to a Lunar Goddess by Icer. Two figures stood watch on a balcony overseeing the Canterlot Gardens, one taller than the other, her white coat and shining mane glittering in the moonlight. The other is small and childlike in comparison, her dark blue coat contrasting to the other's shimmering white, and her light blue mane kept short and neat in comparison to the first's flowing, rainbow-like mane.
Sister, it has been 6 months since you returned. Do you not think that it is time for you to return to your full duties as the night sky's guardian?
Looking up to nuzzle her sister, Luna replied,
I just haven't felt up to it, sister. Much has changed in this past millennium, and I don't recognize anything. Everything feels strange and new, even the night sky. When I reach up to it, it feels completely new. It scares me, sister. I don't know what to do.
Luna, of course it's going to be new,
Celestia replied as she leaned into the nuzzle.
You have been gone for 1,000 years. Of course things are going to be completely different. If I were you, I would just start taking in a little bit at a time. Get used to using your powers again.
I don't know, Tia. Shouldn't I just jump back in? At the very least, I need to do it for you. You have been doing this for me. You really need a break.
Nonsense, Luna. I've been doing it for 1,000 years. I can do it for a few more years at the very least. I think that you should really try it one step at a time, little sister. It would be for the best. And you can get used to your powers once again,
Celestia said as she leaned down to nuzzle her sister. Luna sighed and then replied,
Very well, I will try it your way, Celestia, if only because you think that it will be the best course for me.
Celestia leaned down and gave Luna a large hug.
Oh, I'm so happy you chose to do this. You'll have it under control again in no time. Why don't you try to manipulate one of the constellations first? How about Orion? I've always had trouble with him. Go ahead. Give it a try. Make him shine in all his glory.
She nudged Luna forward, trying to push her into action. Taking the not-so-subtle suggestion, Luna walked forward and turned her focus to where she knew Orion should have been on that particular night, only to be shocked that not only was he not there, he was just a cluster of stars, only barely able to be considered the Orion that she had once created. Giving her sister a bit of a glare, Luna set to work fixing one of her favored creations of the night sky.
Rigel, you shouldn't be over there. You need to be here. Perfect. Beetlejuice, can you please just be a little bit darker? Thank you so much. And you, Safe, you're just way too dark. You need to be brighter.
Celestia smiled as she watched her sister become once again engrossed in the work that had fulfilled her for eras. Her smile grew even larger as she looked up to see the constellation that she had tried so hard to keep perfect slowly rearrange itself into the brave Pegasus that she and her sister had once known so many thousands of years ago. Luna was able to give each star the attention that it deserved, unlike Celestia, who was only able to force them into a rough idea of what they were to look like. Luna's creations were works of art to be celebrated throughout the land. Celestia's attempts at the night sky were as a child's hoof painting by comparison.
Luna, I think you've finished with Orion by now. Do you not think that we should retire for the night?
Celestia said as she walked forward and placed a hoof on Luna's shoulder to break her out of her concentration. Luna finished talking to one of the stars just as it rearranged to form Orion's famous belt before turning to her sister.
I guess, but there's so much more to do. I've only just finished Orion. There's still the Ursas, Scorpio, Canis Major and Minor, Lupus. Oh my, the Southern Cross. How could they navigate in the seas if it's not correct? What about the North Star? It's dimming. Oh, sister, this all just needs to be fixed.
Not tonight, Luna. You've already exhausted yourself as you stand. I know you may not feel it, but looking at you, I can see that you are about ready to collapse. I was correct in assuming that you would need to take full steps in getting back into your power. Now, what do you say we go enjoy a nice cup of tea before retiring,
The Solar Princess concluded, as she started to guide the Regent of the Night into their quarters to calm themselves before settling in for the night. Months passed, each night heralding the recreation of one of the ancient constellations, each one seemingly more beautiful than the last. The night sky was once again aglow with Luna's love, each and every star getting her attention before she moved on to the next. And that was not all that changed. As more and more of the sky was brought back under her control, Luna seemed to grow, not only in power, but in form as well. Whereas before there stood a teenage-looking alicorn, now there stood a proud and regal princess of the night. Her mane was not flowing like her sister's, but it too had grown past her muzzle, the light blue strands hanging long and conditioned to look much like the Milky Way in a night sky. It was not until she had orchestrated a beautiful meteor shower that brought tears to her and her sister's eyes did she talk to Celestia about the most important part of her sky, the very thing that held her name, which was reflected in her cutie mark, and the very fiber of her being, the celestial body that had been both home and prison to her in times past. She broached the subject of regaining control of the moon to her sister the coming morning at their shared breakfast.
Sister, I must speak with you on an important subject,
Luna said with a little trepidation, setting down her tea to look at Celestia with a look of resolution.
Oh? What is it?
Celestia queried as she continued to munch on her croissant.
Well, I was thinking that it was about time for me to take on my full responsibilities again. I want to raise and control the moon starting tonight.
The Regent of the Night pronounced to her sister, choosing to take the matter head-on instead of beating around the proverbial bush. Celestia paused from her breakfast, setting the mostly consumed croissant down and swallowing what was left in her mouth.
Luna, that's fantastic! I knew you were going to be ready again soon. I could just feel the power coming from you. Unfortunately, we still have the entire day to wait through before we get to see your wonderful moonrise. So, with any further ado, I shall now leave you to finish your breakfast, and to begin my duties for the day. I believe that the diplomats from Knossos have an important item they wish to discuss with me, and I should not leave them waiting. You know how those griffins can be.
And with that, Celestia floated the last of her croissant into her mouth and trotted out the door to her royal business for the day. Luna wasn't as sure as her sister on the matter, and after concluding her breakfast and taking care of several issues with the courts, and a meeting with the Treasury Secretary of the Kingdom over appropriations for the coming year's Summer Sun celebration, she dismissed her attendants to retire to her room for the afternoon, in preparation for reclaiming control of her moon. The first of them came in the afternoon when she was resting, a knock on the door rousing Luna from her slumber. She slowly got up out of bed, using her magic to quickly fix any stray strands of hair in her mane and coat as she walked over to the door to open it.
Yes?
She said without any hint of annoyance, many years of practice before her banishment permitting her to hide her anger at being awoken.
Ma'am, this was delivered this afternoon. Normally we don't deliver the mail directly to you two, but seeing as this is the first mail you've gotten, we felt that it was reasonable at this time.
The guard pony at the door said, as he hooved over a simple envelope addressed to Princess Luna. Luna looked at the strange thing for a moment before magicking it off to the side of her desk, intending to read it later, before she nodded at the guard pony and shut her door, returning to her much-needed nap. Luna roused herself from her rest about an hour before moonrise and grabbed a quick snack from the kitchens, before she set off into her preferred part of the garden for working on the sky. From there she spent much of that remaining time to paint a spell that would weave the stars, comets, and galaxies into a gorgeous tapestry that would then complement the rising moon. The spell was a complex one, requiring layers upon layers of preparation and guidance for the stars to do just as she wished when the time came. Celestia found herself wandering out to the gardens with very little time to spare before the moonrise, having spent quite a bit of time in the company of one very irate griffin diplomat over a trade agreement for gems. She turned the corner to Luna's place just as she felt the moon leaving her grip and entering her sister's own power, and let out a large smile at the sight that she beheld. Luna's entire form glowed with ethereal energies, streaking out into the night sky from her body, as she became one with the night temporarily as the moon rose over the horizon. The stars behind the moon seemed to nearly go out, as those further away increased their brilliance in contrast to the stark blackness that permeated the space between. The moon itself was a full moon, its own glory shining through, the ancient mare and the moon having long since vanished, leaving a pristine plate in its wake. As the moon settled into its long-abandoned path, one that only its true caretaker knew, Luna became separated from the night sky, her form slowly becoming more physical than ethereal. Celestia's smile became even larger as she witnessed the rebirth of the sky, and the rebirth of her sister's power and true form. As the last of the spell was set into motion, and the remnants of the magic faded from the Night Princess, her true form was once again revealed to the world. Her mane was flowing once again in the magic of the night, stars speckling through the cobalt that so closely resembled the night above her. Her coat had darkened further, taking on a soothing sapphire color, and she once again held the true powers of the night in all of its glory and ethereal grace.
Luna, you were great! It was the most beautiful moonrise I've ever seen. How are you feeling?
Celestia said as she trotted up to Luna to nuzzle her lovingly. Luna looked up at her sister, slightly surprised at how much closer Celestia's face was to her now that she had regained her former form.
I feel fantastic. I haven't felt this well in a very long time, sister. I think that I will attempt to take back more of my former duties, starting tonight. Yes, tonight I will delve back into my tax code and see what disastrous things you have done to it.
Celestia blushed a little at this, and replied smartly,
I think that you will find it all to be to your satisfaction, though I do not wish for you to work too hard, Luna. Remember, you only recently gained back your powers tonight.
Yes, I guess you're correct, Tia, but I feel so great that I'm myself again. But I shall take your advice. Tonight I will not work too hard, if only for your benefit. Now, as for you, I think that you deserve to go to sleep. It is not your night, it is mine.
Luna said with a slight smile, as she nudged the elder alicorn towards her room with a bit more force than the older sibling was used to. The night passed quickly for the royal pony sisters, Celestia getting the first true sleep that she had had in 1001 years, and Luna immersing herself in the legal and tax codes that her sister had made great changes to over the centuries, while keeping track of the moon's and stars' movements through her night sky. Daybreak found the sisters sharing a brief meal together, with Luna's being more of a dinner and Celestia's being a light breakfast, and the two soon parted ways. Celestia to the throne room for morning court, and Luna to her bedroom to recuperate from her first night after returning to her post as the moon's regent. The exhausted princess did not notice the 5 new envelopes that had been placed upon her desk with the first, as she carefully removed her marks of office and placed them on her vanity, and then clambered into her bed. Her sleep was the most restful that she had had in ages, and was so deep that she did not notice the several times that servants had entered the room to place yet more envelopes onto her desk. When she finally did wake up, with much time to spare before she raises the moon for the next night, the pile had grown to taking up much of her desk, not to say the large sack beside it. Luna looked at the pile of letters with a wary eye, confused as to why ponies had sent her so many while for so long they had not sent anything to her. With a curious thought, she pulled the first one that she had placed there herself out of the pile with her magic, and opened it up while straightening her coat and placing her crown and necklace upon her form.
Dear Princess Luna, thank you for such an amazing meteor shower last night. It was the best meteor shower that I've ever seen, and I never miss one if I can take the chance. The way that the meteors worked with the stars was quite elegant, to say nothing of the brilliance of their tails. The entire night was utterly exciting for me, and I wish you luck in your future endeavors with the night sky. Your faithful subject, Eternal Observer.
Frowning, Luna pulled several letters from the stack, opening them up and reading them one by one.
Dear Princess Luna, I've been meaning to write this letter for quite a while, but every time I sat down to write it, I was completely entrapped by your ever-changing and gorgeous constellations. In all the time that your sister was controlling the sky, I had never seen a more beautiful sight than the ones that you have been creating over the past couple of months. I must say that your stars are more beautiful than any painting in any Manhattan art gallery. Thank you very much for creating them. Your faithful subject, Cloudkicker.
Dear Princess Luna, your stars are so awesome. They're the most radical things that I've ever seen. My friends and I have been out on the beach every night for the past 2 weeks, and we just spend much of the night watching your stars and enjoying their moves. And that meteor shower? Totally rad. Your tubular subject, Wave Rider.
Dear Princess Luna, the moon was the brightest moon that I have ever seen, and it let us safely get back to the farmhouse after getting caught up in harvesting a large section of our fields. If it weren't for your moon, we would have spent a lot longer wandering around trying to find our farmhouse in the dark, or we would have missed being able to sell our produce at the market today. At the market, we ran into an old friend of ours who has become a manager for a large grocery store in Manhattan, and we were able to open up a new place for us to sell our produce. If your moon wasn't there, I don't know where we'd be today. Thank you. Your loyal subjects, Green Sprouts and Rolling Turnip.
The letters continued on like that for some time, each one thanking Princess Luna personally for her gorgeous night, complimenting her on her artwork and her capabilities. Luna could barely handle it. Each one was like praise from some long-gone parent, and each one lifted her spirits and made her more grateful that she had been in millennia. As she continued to read each and every letter, her eyes started to tear up. In all her years of exile, she had never dreamed that this would happen, that she would return to Equestria to learn that the ponies really did love her and her night sky. She had feared that they would hate her and fear her for her past actions.
Dear Princess Luna, Regent of the Night Sky, my name is Highwater, Captain of the equestrian naval vessel Eternal Sky, and I am writing to give my grand thanks for your marvelous recreation of the Southern Cross. As you may or may not know, several months ago a large squall appeared in the southern Pacific Ocean, and many ships were thrown off course. The Eternal Sky was one of those ships. Our rigging was badly damaged, and we were stuck at sea for several days with no idea as to where we were. As the nights passed, we began to notice the constellations becoming more and more clear, their shapes and definitions becoming clearer and more defined from the regular stars of the sky. It was from this information that we were able to ascertain our location in the sea, though we were unable to do so entirely, and were stuck wandering the sea until you recreated the Southern Cross. Without the cross, we would have been lost for several more weeks, and perhaps would have even perished without the help of another vessel, and the recreation of your skies permitted us that safety. After the recreation of the cross, we were able to better navigate our ways to the trade routes and find a ship that could help with our repairs and sail with us as we limped to the nearest port. As luck would have it, that port was our destination, and we were safely able to deliver our goods as was needed. The holds of our ship were full of medical supplies for the nearby Griffin town that was facing a deadly disease. Your stars saved the lives of my ship and crew, but also the lives of those griffins who would have died without your saving graces. Thank you for your night sky. Your most loyal and eternal subject, Captain Highwater of the Equestrian Foreign Aid Service.
Luna's eyes widened at such a lengthy letter, and she was nearly in tears by the end of the note. If she had not spent so much time ensuring that the stars were back in their places, ponies and griffins would be dead. It was all because of her that they were saved. She sighed as she looked back at the pile of opened and read letters, and then opened up the bag one more time, surprised to see a single envelope inside. Lifting the envelope out of the bag, Luna looked at the stationery that it was made out of. It was clearly much nicer than most of the others she had received, and looked like it was custom-made. She turned it around using her magic, and saw something that surprised her the most. The envelope was sealed with a wax seal that was clearly the shape of the senator's cutie mark, a starburst surrounded by 5 other stars.
I do believe that I've seen that cutie mark before.
Luna carefully opened the envelope from one side and pulled out the letter, and almost dropped it when she gasped and confirmed her suspicions.
Dear Princess Luna, my name is Twilight Sparkle. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I was one of the ponies that helped free you from Nightmare Moon the night that you returned. All of my life I've been a passionate scholar of the night sky, and have always wondered at the stars and the secrets that they might hold. When I was growing up, I would spend hours at a time looking through my telescope, trying to see every little detail that I could see through such a small telescope. I kept very detailed notes and compared many of them to the diagrams that were in my books, only to be disappointed time and time again when they did not match up. As I got older, my love for the night sky did not once wane. I continued my studies of the movements of the stars and the moon alongside the studies that I undertook as Princess Celestia's protégé. I would say that the night sky became even more important to me as I grew older, as it gave me a bit of an escape from magical studies, while still allowing me to do my favorite thing, study. With your release from the moon, I soon realized why the stars and constellations were not as they were supposed to be, as according to my texts and studies. It was because it was Princess Celestia, not you, who was controlling the skies. She was unfamiliar with their magic, and it was different from her own. It was then that I knew that it was only a matter of time until we started to see the beauty of your night sky once again. And I was not disappointed. Each night over the past 6 months has shown more and more of your beautiful night to the world, and I think that the best example of your grace as an artist was the meteor shower the other night. That is, until you raised the moon last night. It was the most beautiful thing that I have ever seen, Princess, and it is not something that I will ever forget. The way that the moon rose, and the manner in which you made the stars themselves bow before it, I could not picture anything more perfect than that. Thank you, as a scholar of the night sky, for creating such a beautiful creation. Your faithful student, Twilight Sparkle. P.S. Please, please, please don't show this to Princess Celestia.
She was speechless. The region of the night was for once left without any words to say, and without bidding, tears of joy started to pour down her cheeks. In all her life, she had never had anyone say or write something to her that brought such joy to her life, that showed such appreciation for her gifts. She hugged the letter close to her chest as she summoned a frame for it, before carefully placing it within and putting it on her desk, tears of joy still streaming down her face. Celestia heard the commotion coming from her sister's room, and went to investigate for several reasons. First of all, she was worried as to what was taking Luna so long to get up for the night, and second, she was afraid that something had happened that had caused her to cry. She opened the door quickly and trotted inside to comfort her sister.
Luna, what is going...
Celestia could not finish her sentence, as she was tackled by her younger sibling, and forced into a large hug that constricted her airways.
It's so wonderful, Tia. The most magical thing has happened. They love us. They love our night sky.
Luna said through her tears of elation. Celestia looked over the pile of letters, seeing one stand out with her protégé's cutie mark, before she smiled and held her sister closer.
History. One of the most fragile and treasured things in any pony society. It is always written by the victors, and the ones who lose the battle are often erased from time to keep their X hidden away. I was once a victor. Once. But being a victor doesn't reserve your place in history. It just gives you the ability to write the books. The ones who died for victory. The brave ponies that were the fighting force of the war or the event. They are the ones who are erased. Their souls are restless through time, wishing that what they did was appreciated, hoping that some pony would come along and remember them in their sacrifices. I am one of those ponies. You may not know who I am, but regardless, I know who you are. I have seen you, as well as many other ponies over the centuries, walk this land and pass from it. I am nothing but stone. At least, that is what every pony else sees me as. I watch as your warm, life-filled bodies walk the earth mortally, wishing that I could be just like you. Wishing to be loved, to be mortal once again. To be mortal would give me the life that I'd always wanted, and the ability to die. The cold is a constant reminder of my stony imprisonment, biting at my outer shell, freezing my soul trapped inside. I have lived for what seems like centuries, maybe even 1,000 years. But time is not something I've ever been fond of. It always slows down when I pay attention to it, and when I wanted a moment of it to last forever, it's gone in an instant, leaving the moment burned in my mind, but the feeling gone forever. Sometimes, well, it's more like all of the time, I just sit here and watch as you walk along happily, without a care in the world. Some of you carrying books, and others just walking along with some pony they love. Sometimes, some of you even take the chance to stop and stare at me, watching me intently as if I was going to move. Some even question why I was here. And that was something I wished I knew for myself. Why I'm here. The everlasting question of time. Why are we all here in this world? Every pony had to have some significant purpose, even if it's just standing still for centuries as I do. It's not those who decide to stop that bother me, however. It's those that wish that they could have what I have. Those ponies who want to have the immortality of my soul don't know how hard it is to watch those around them wither away and die. They don't know how old your soul becomes, how much your soul will want to wither and die just like every pony else. You want your loved ones to be as you are, trapped inside immortality, but reason says otherwise. Those that you have loved, those that you will love, will all fade in the endless space of time, eventually wiped from your mind. I faintly remember loving some pony once. I remember the feeling, the joy in my mind, and the warmth that spread throughout my body. I remember her. But who she was, I don't recall. I know that they will always be with me in my heart, and I know that they passed many years ago, while I've been trapped here. I think that they loved me back. At least, I hope that they did.
Daddy!
A faint filly's voice rang through my mind.
Daddy, come here!
I was a father. I had left some child to fend for itself in this world, taking away something that it may have held dear. If it did hold me dear, that is. I have no recollection of having a child, or even knowing the voice that called out to me. But it touched my heart, and the warmth coursed through my body like a forest fire. I could feel myself starting to wallow in my own sadness. Something that shouldn't have to happen to any pony. Through my many years, I've seen many bright, young souls lose track of their lives just because they felt sorry for themselves and fell deeper into their own depression. That'd not be something I'd let happen to me. I just couldn't. No matter how much I wanted to feel sorry for myself, it was a sign of weakness. And I, the great... My name. What was my name? I hadn't taken much thought into my name in the past 100 years or so, that I'd actually forgotten who I was. Was I some pony who destroyed the land? And was that why I was stuck in stone? I don't think that any pony in history, or as long as I can remember, was put into the form of a statue to willingly serve as his or her own tribute. That idea was just a harrowing thought. I had to have done something in my past that had caused me to become this statue. And most ponies never even gave me a look. Does that mean I'm bad? I never wanted to be bad. Or at least that's the way I feel now. Only if I could tell some pony, any pony, that I was not who I used to be. Whoever that was. The sun was striking my flank. I could feel the warmth being concentrated there, and the sun would soon drop over the horizon. The moon was soon to rise from the other end of the sky as well. The moon and the sun. Why did they seem so familiar to me? Of course they would. I see them every day and night, but I felt a deeper connection for some odd reason. It was almost as if it was me who had raised the sun and moon each day. I decided that I would let my mind drift. That was what consisted of my normal days, so to speak, and it was never filled with anything usually other than a blank thought. Just pure black. My mind has gotten vastly darker since I last remember. Whenever that was. I had no memories anymore. And anything that I've ever tried to remember always becomes lost in the sands of time.
Daddy!
The young filly called out once again.
No! Daddy! Come see me first!
Another young filly called out, but this time it was different. The voices that I were hearing weren't chunks of my dissipated memories. It had almost seemed real, and the voices seemed to be coming from behind me. I tried turning my head, and to my amazement, I was actually moving. My muscles were real. The grass and the air were actually real. The sky was a beautiful ocean blue. Some patches of the clouds were slowly being cleared by tiny points on the horizon. I could have sworn that it was other ponies, but it wasn't very likely that any pony would have wings. That's when it hit me. I was back in the old castle courtyard. Flowers of all colors and kinds were in bloom, the sweet scent of their buds flowing with the gentle cooling wind that passed through my mane and wings. I have wings? When did I get wings? That's impossible. I don't even remember being able to fly. I calmed myself as I realized I was overreacting to this dream, memory, or whatever it was. This had to be something from my past. That had to be the only explanation. I shook my head once to clear my mind and get back to the situation at hand. I saw a multicolored mane out of the corner of my eye, which seemed to have a slight sparkle to it. I turned my head, yet again, to see two fillies wrestling in the grass. One had the most beautiful white coat. It was as if she were covered in a cloud. The other had a darker coat, and could easily be lost in the black of the night. I just wanted to run over and grab the two and hold them forever. That way I wouldn't have to lose them again. There was something strange about these two, and I couldn't place my hoof on it. I knew that they were sisters, but it wasn't that. There was something else. They had wings and horns. They were alicorns? My little fillies were alicorns. I felt my heart sink again, as all that I could come to call them were fillies. I didn't even know my own daughter's names. What kind of father am I that I can't remember my own daughter's names? Another realization that came from staring at the young fillies was that they were wrestling to show me who was stronger. It was as if they were in an infinite stalemate. The young fillies were alicorns, so that meant I was an alicorn too, right? And that meant that my wife was one too. That was the only possibility for there to be any pony like them. I slowly raised my hoof to touch where my horn should be, and sure enough, there was one resting right on my forehead. I heard a faint clopping of hooves on stone behind me, and the voice of an angel echoed.
Honey, is your horn bothering you again?
I turned around to view who this lovely voice belonged to. All that I saw was white. Pure white. Snow. I tried to move, hoping that I could join them in that dream once again. It was almost as if I had shared it with someone else. It felt like there were two souls living in that memory with me, enjoying what it had once been. I didn't know how long I had slept. But living in stone makes any amount of time seem minuscule in comparison to how long you seem to be awake. All I'd known was that in that moment was that it had snowed, and I was knee-deep in it. I was standing in a rather awkward position for a statue. I was somewhat knelt down, as if I were waiting for something to hit me. As if something was coming for me, and my horn was the only defense I had left. My horn. I couldn't reach up to feel if it was there or not, but I knew it was gone. It had been snapped clean off from the base, and I knew that meant that I was nothing more than a Pegasus in my current state. A memory came back to me. I remembered that if a horn is snapped off of any magical creature, then it loses its magic forever. It didn't make any sense. Why would I be pointing my horn at some creature? It was then that I felt a sort of scraping, but a gentle one. It was as if some pony were actually taking the time to gently brush the snow off of me. No pony had ever been generous enough to do that for me before. I'd always been forced to wait out the winter and let the snow melt away as it pleased. The last thing that this pony, or whoever was clearing the snow for me, did was clear it from my eyes. There were ponies everywhere, sitting calmly and quietly, as if they were waiting for some pony else to speak. They were staring at me, it seemed. But I knew better than that. There must be some pony behind me. I tried to scream for help, to alert them somehow, but no sound came from my mouth. There was nothing I could do but watch. I felt two figures brush up against my flank and slowly proceed to come to my sides, just out of my line of sight. One of them began to speak in a rather loud tone that seemed to echo a royal speaking voice. How I remembered that, I don't know.
Citizens of Canterlot and Equestria!
The voice began. It reminded me of the small, night-colored filly from my memory. The voice seemed to match it, just amplified 100 times.
Luna,
The other voice called.
I think that I should talk for this ceremony.
I couldn't see a thing on either side of me. Only the large crowd of ponies assembled in front of me were visible. Once she started again, it was evident that the other pony had approved of what she'd said.
This day, we've come here to celebrate the 1000th anniversary of the pony who had saved me and my sister's life as young fillies. The pony who was courageous enough to take on a hydra himself, to protect 2 small fillies, putting his own well-being on the line.
The voice paused, her voice hinting at sadness.
He sacrificed his magic, something that every one of us hold dear, to save us. He used his horn after vigorously fighting to put the creature to an end. But he was also putting an end to himself. His horn snapped from his head, and the vast amount of magic flowing from his body turned him instantly into stone. Today, we remember him.
The 2 figures rested their heads on mine, their manes barely visible out of the corner of my eyes. One was the color of night, and the other was as white as the clouds themselves. The ponies of the audience all raised their hooves and stomped to the bravery I had once enacted, something that I would most likely never remember. The 2 ponies at my side, which I assumed were my daughters, rose. The ponies in front of me moved from where they had been as they stopped stomping and walked in front of me, each dropping a bouquet of flowers at my feet and muttering a thank you. Some even had tears dripping from their lively eyes. As the crowd dissipated, the 2 alicorns appeared in front of me, tears flowing from their eyes. They stood directly in my line of sight, making sure I knew of their presence before the white one spoke.
You may not remember us, but we remember you, and that is what matters right now. We know that you are struggling to stay alive in there, but bear with us. We have been trying to free you for the longest time, and we do thank you for what you did to save us back then.
2 alicorns reached forward, their front legs extending around my neck, holding me in a firm grip. They'd started to cry a vast amount, and I could feel their tears running down my stone back as they both spoke in unison.
I love you, Daddy.
A tear formed in the corner of my eye, rolling off of my face and falling to the snow below.
This is Repairmanman reading Equestria World Ping Pong Championship Tournament by Roxy.
Alright, Equestria, this year's tournament has been something really special.
An excited small purple and green dragon exclaimed into a microphone, his voice projected through a very fancy speaker system that had been set up in the stadium for just this occasion.
There were some very talented ponies this year, but the 2 ponies in the finals are a cut above the rest. Before the final match begins, we have to thank our sponsors, Dan Seehofer, owner of the Equestrian Ping Pong Pony Emporium and 5 times EWPPCT champion, for donating the equipment necessary to make an event such as this happen. DJ Pone 3 for allowing us to use her amazing sound system, and the Princesses of Equestria, Princess Celestia and Princess Luna.
The Earth Pony, Unicorn, and Alicorns in question all stood and took a bow in the VIP booth high above the crowd. The crowd, which looked to be all of Equestria in fact, neighed and stopped their hooves in wild cheering for the sponsors, the competitors, and the sheer joy in making loud noises. Spike waited momentarily for the crowd to settle down before continuing.
Now the moment you've all been waiting for, the final match of Equestrian World Ping Pong Championship Tournament.
Spike shouted into the microphone, almost drowned out by another round of cheering from the spectating ponies in the stand.
Introducing a newcomer to the professional circuit. A rookie with spunk, smiles, and skills that thrill. Pinkie, the Paddle Pie!
The spectators went into another wave of frenzied cheering as a bubblegum pink earth pony bounced into the arena, waving enthusiastically to the crowd. A large four-screen monitor above the center of the arena showed various images and clips of the pink prodigy taking various acrobatic leaps to make incredible saves and returns as she approached the table, still bouncing the whole way. The lights dimmed to almost nothing, and faint guitar riffs could be heard coming from seemingly nowhere as the sports announcing dragon again waited for the crowd to settle down, which after the lights were cut, took no time.
Introducing a Pegasus, who needs no introduction, but insisted on one anyways. A mare with moves that set the table ablaze, put crowds on pins and needles, and can only be described as awesomely radical. Your reigning champion, Rainbow, the Smash Queen, Dash!
Spike all but roared as the crowd was becoming too loud for him to be heard. An insanely fast guitar riff came on as a blur of rainbow-colored speed shot around the arena, giving high hooves and hoof bumps to out-of-control fans, all while the monitor above showed clips of the Pegasus Pro delivering jaw-dropping shots. She touched down at the other end of the table, posing a few times for the photographer ponies to snap photos of her.
Don't think I'm gonna take it easy on you just because we're friends, Pinks.
Dash grinned at the pink earth pony across from her. Pinkie giggled and grinned back.
Silly Dashy, I'm gonna win this tournament Pinkie Pie style, and I'll be the premier party ping pong pony of Ponyville.
Pinkie exclaimed, bouncing even more at the thought of all the parties she could host in celebration of her future win. Competitors, are you ready? A unicorn in a referee's uniform asked, his magic holding a coin and ball in the air. The winners of the toss will decide who serves first, he exclaimed, using his magic to throw the coin high in the air. Call!
Heads!
The cyan Pegasus quickly shouted.
Sides!
The pink earth pony yelled in response.
Sides? Pinkie Pie, you are so random. There's no way!
Dash was cut off as the coin hit the table and landed perfectly vertical on its side.
What the hey?
She bellowed in disbelief. The referee turned to the widely smiling Pinkie Pie. Your choice, miss? The ball floated to her slowly, but she pushed it away.
I think Dashy should serve. She is the current champion after all.
Dash took the ball in her free hoof.
Thanks, Pinkie. But I'm still gonna smash you flat. I'll show you that I'm 20% more awesome than you in 10 seconds flat.
She raised the ball and looked at the referee, who backed away and shouted, Begin! The spotlights in the arena focused on the two ponies at the center.
Well, my worthy opponent, are you prepared to ping the pong?
Dash asked, a determined look on her face. Pinkie Pie blinked and giggled.
Rainbow Dash, we're here to play ping pong, not ping any pongs.
She snorted with laughter, causing Rainbow Dash to scratch the back of her head with the paddle in her hoof in embarrassment.
Right, whatever. Let's play already!
Dash shook her head to get focused again and tossed the ball in the air before smacking it across the table.
Take that! That's okay. You can keep it, Dashy.
The pink pony smiled as she smacked the ball back to Dash, with her eyes shut tight to boot. Dash was taken off guard by the display and consequently let the ball bounce off her side into the floor. Point Pinkie Pie, the referee shouted, floating the ball back to Rainbow Dash as the monitor displayed a score of 0-1 in Pinkie's favor. The shocked Pegasus stood still for a moment before regaining her composure and taking the ball.
You got me that time, Pinkie. But it sure as hey ain't gonna happen again.
Dash growled, throwing the ball up and smacking it to Pinkie. The party pony just smiled and smacked the ball back, being oddly silent. Dash smirked. Now that she was focused again, she was going to stomp Pinkie Pie like a weather Pegasus stomps clouds into vapor. The crowd could only watch in awe as the ball whizzed back and forth, neither pony giving any ground. The pink earth pony, grinning wide on the 30-second return of the ball, suddenly smacked the ball harshly while spinning, causing the ball to curve wildly and bounce off the table at an angle.
Oh, no you don't!
The cyan Pegasus shouted as she leapt at the ball, giving a fierce swing at the ball, sending it rocketing back to the table. Pinkie Pie was just a second too slow, thinking she had the point, and scrambled to save the ball, but it struck just outside of her, lunged on the table, and ricocheted towards the wall. Point! Rainbow Dash! The unicorn referee shouted, the score now 1-1, as the ball floated to Pinkie Pie this time.
Ha! Told you, Pinks. This game is mine.
Dash crowed, arrogantly grinning at the pony across from her.
Yeah, you sure earned that point, Dashy. Good shot.
The ever-smiling Pinky replied, preparing for her serve. 2 hours, 37 minutes, and 22 seconds later.
Okay, every pony. This has been an intense match so far, with the score 999 to 999, a dead tie. A sudden death rule has been put into effect by the princesses. The next point will decide this year's Equestria World Ping Pong Championship Tournament champion.
Spike excitedly yelled into the microphone, the spectating ponies going into a frenzy at the news, neighing, whinnying, stomping hoofs, some air horns being set off, and just generally yelling in excitement.
You're tough, Dashy. Really tough. I don't think I can even remember a time when I had this much fun.
The pink earth pony panted, the strain of the game starting to show on her face. The Pegasus across the table was equally winded.
Yeah, this is way intense, Pinks. Whoever wins is really gonna be the champ.
The cyan Pegasus gasped. Her exhaustion was apparent as well.
Okay, every pony. It has been decided that a quick 15-minute intermission will be held to allow the competitors a quick break, and for the spectators to grab food or collectible memorabilia.
Spike announced, a trace of excitement still lingering in the young dragon's voice. The arena cleared out as the spectators went to take stall breaks, stretch, and buy food and trinkets. The ponies at the center of the arena shuffled into their respective locker rooms to recharge. 15 minutes later!
And we're back! The intermission was brought to you by Griffinade. Griffinade, is it in you? Now Rainbow Dash and Pinkie Pie are returning to the arena for the concluding match of this truly exciting event!
The eager dragon rambled on for a few more minutes, quoting the stats and other interesting tidbits about the two ping-pong powerhouses as they were indeed making their way back to the center of the arena.
All right, Pinkie Pie. You ready to settle this? 'Cause I am, and I'm not going home without my trophy!
Dash exclaimed, looking as determined to win as ever. She stepped up to the table, paddle in hoof, ready to put everything on the table, so to speak.
You betcha, Dashy. Pinkie Pie is gonna show you why she, Pinkie Pie, is the greatest ping-pong pony in Ponyville. Nay, in all of Equestria. And Pinkie Pie is gonna do it Pinkie Pie style.
Pinkie shouted confidently, putting her hoofs on her hips in a defiant pose.
Pinkie Pie, you are so random.
Dash chuckled, taking the ball from the referee, who quickly backed away, leaving only the two rival friends at the center of the crowded arena. Begin! The unicorn referee shouted at them. Dash tossed the ball up, drew her hoof back, and slammed her paddle into the ball, sending it careening towards the earth pony at the other end of the table. Pinkie Pie countered with a powerful back hoof, the ball launching back at the Pegasus. Dash wasn't going to let that slip by and returned the ball with a violent slam, the ball once again rocketing to the other side, catching just inside the line and bouncing towards the wall.
Ha! I win, Pinkie! There's no way!
Dash was taunting before she stopped mid-sentence as Pinkie sped backwards and shouted the name of her next move.
Okie dokie Loki Lob!
Pinkie declared as she smacked the little white ball high in the air, its arc sending it back to Dash's side. Dash just grinned. Pinkie Pie wanted to play that way? Fine. But Dash would show Pinkie that she was also the best ping-pong player as well as the best flyer in Equestria.
Slipstream slam!
Dash shouted, leading up to meet the ball, slamming it back down to the unguarded table with an audible crack. Pinkie raced back to the table, paddle drawn back for the return strike.
Take this! Cupcake chop!
The pink earth pony yelled, spinning fast and smashing the ball, giving it a wicked spin, making it hit the center of Dash's side and spin off to the left at a wide angle. The multicolored mare flew at the ball, swinging hard with her own whirlwindish spin, again sending the ball whizzing to Pinkie's side with a vengeance.
Twister topspin!
Dash shouted when the hit connected, the ball striking the table low and fast, sipping beneath her opponent's foreleg.
Pinkie Pie, power push pop-up!
The cotton candy-colored earth pony howled, leaping backwards, catching the little white blur with a monstrous blow. The ball engulfed in a small fire as it struck the table, sending out a shower of sparks as it made a 90-degree vertical climb, smokes and flame trailing behind. Dash gave a mighty flap of her wings and sailed up to the fireball, and time seemed to slow down. The airborne Pegasus breathed deeply, everything going quiet in her mind, and the only sound she heard was her heartbeat. She drew her paddle back. An afterimage trailed her movements, and when her backswing reached its peak, her eyes snapped open and the roar of the crowd came rushing back to her as she swung all the power her muscles could give her.
Sonic Spiral Spectra Rainbow Smash Shot!
Dash bellowed, her swing connecting with a boom, a ripple of color blasting out from the ball as it reached supersonic speeds. A twisting contrail of bright rainbow colors was the only indication of the blurring ball's ballistic path toward the table. Pinkie Pie raced back to the table, frantic to catch the ball. The ball struck the table and a brilliant flash of color filled the arena. The once deafening cheers of the crowd were overpowered by a thunderous boom. When the arena dimmed back to a level where sight wasn't painful, the spectators, Spike, and the VIP sponsors in the booth opened their eyes to a shocking sight. The ping pong table had been smashed to pieces, and colored burn marks covered the center of the arena. The pink earth pony was plastered to the wall, and her cyan Pegasus rival was standing on wobbling legs. Point Rainbow Dash! The referee, who had been smart enough to wear Spectrum sunshades, the only eye protection approved for light displays like the one that had been born of Rainbow Dash's attack, shouted unnecessarily as the crowd was stone quiet, which then drove the crowd into a frenzy of frenzied cheering, whooping, stomping, shouting, and screaming. Rainbow Dash chuckled and dragged herself over to Pinkie Pie and stuck out her hoof.
Good game, Pinks. You really gave me a tough time.
She coughed and grinned at the earth pony, who took her hoof and pulled herself off the wall, an indent left in the wall from her collision into it.
Wow, Rainbow Dash, that was amazing! The way you made the ball go all techno-lighty and went whoosh, and ba-boom! And I was all, no, I have to stop it! But I was too slow, and it broke the table and bounced and blew by me! It was the most colorifically spectacular thing I've ever seen! I mean, besides your Sonic Rainboom, that is. That was like a baby Sonic Rainboom, but it was still so amazingly amazing-tastic!
Pinkie exclaimed with a renewed vigor that left Dash wondering where she got all that energy.
Pinkie Pie, you are so random!
Dash laughed and slapped a hoof on Pinkie's back, who had to help her up to the winner's circle since she couldn't really support her own weight. Winner's Circle! Award ceremony! You know, you should probably I don't know.
My little ponies, it is the great honor of my sister and myself to award the top 3 competitors in this tournament for their efforts and dazzling displays of skill.
Princess Celestia smiled serenely as her younger sister nodded in agreement.
In 3rd place, Twilight Sparkle.
Twilight blushed slightly at the cheers for her 3rd place achievement. She hadn't expected to come so far. She didn't even get to finish Ping Pong Professional's Guide to Professional Ping Pong Volume 3 after all. She accepted the bronze medal Princess Luna slipped around her neck with her magic.
In 2nd place, Pinkie, the Paddle Pie.
Pinkie Pie clapped and bounced around happily, making it difficult for the Moon Princess to loop the silver medal around her neck, resolving to hold her down with her magic as she passed the medal and the trophy of a silver paddle to the Pink Party Pony.
And your grand champion of the Equestria World Ping Pong Championship Tournament, Rainbow, the Smash Queen Dash.
Rainbow Dash bowed and struck heroic-looking poses for the thunderingly loud cheering fans before leaning down so Princess Luna could place the gold medal around her neck and pass her an ornately decorated golden trophy of 2 ponies playing ping pong.
And that concludes this year's Equestria World Ping Pong Championship Tournament. Thank you all so very much for attending and supporting your fellow ponies.
Princess Celestia waved to the crowd as the royal guards pulled the chariot away, taking herself and her sister back to the castle. Ponyville, Sugar Cube Corner. A party was in full swing at the town's main bakery, with a banner inside that read, "Congratulations, Rainbow Dash, on winning the super awesome ping pong game, and better luck next time, Pinkie Pie."
I'll tell you what, that sure was some fancy paddling y'all did back there.
Applejack exclaimed, taking a swig of cider and patting the 2 ping pong ponies on their back.
Gosh, Applejack, that's super duper sweet of you to say. Almost as sweet as the cake's marzipan musk full of meringue madness.
Pinkie Pie giggled, sweeping the orange farm pony up in a long, crushing hug.
I agree. You were both simply dazzling. The beauty of your spectacular showdown was simply the best possible thing. I must make you both celebratory gowns to commemorate this event.
Rarity gushed, thinking of all the wonderful designs she could draw up.
Yeah, I'm gonna pass on the dress, Rarity, but you're totally right. I was so awesome back there.
Rainbow Dash boasted, swelling out her chest.
You both, did very well. I was cheering as loud as I could for you. Like this.
Fluttershy drew in a deep breath.
Yay!
The shy Pegasus squeaked, barely above an inside voice. Every pony laughed good-naturedly, and Fluttershy blushed sheepishly and hid behind her mane.
You know, the only pony I don't remember seeing there was Derpy Hooves.
Twilight Sparkle mused thoughtfully. Dash waved a hoof dismissively at Twilight.
Derpy probably got caught up with muffins, or just got lost or something. You know how she is, Twi.
Dash said, snagging a few more cupcakes. The party lasted for a few more hours, and eventually every pony returned to their respective homes, except Pinkie Pie, who actually lived at Sugar Cube Corner, so she had nowhere to return, really. The Valley of Valor, the mare's main mountain range. A slate-colored mare with a light green mane and bubbles for a cutie mark stood panting, a singed ping-pong paddle in one hoof, the other clutching a rock to keep her steady. The area around her was littered with small holes, each looking like a drill had eaten through the mountain, scorch marks surrounding the holes. Her steely-eyed glaze slowly relaxed into a wall-eyed expression as she reached inside a saddlebag to pull out a muffin. She was about to take a bite when she noticed a cloaked pony step out of a cave. "Ah, Miss Hooves, I heard the commotion. I trust your training was fruitful?" a kindly old stallion's voice inquired to the mare. Her eyes momentarily refocused and she grinned.
Yeah, it sure was, Steel Grip. I think I perfected the one move that can rival the Sonic Spiral Spectrum Rainboom Smash Shot.
Derpy Hooves nodded at the holes around her. "And what will you call it, my student?" Steel asked, a sliver of a smile gracing his aged muzzle.
I'm going to call it the Derpy Dead Ball Double Drive Danger Zone Drop Shot.
The slate mare grinned. Her features were full of confidence and dreams of future glory. The stallion chuckled warmly, a whimsical smile playing across his face. "Very well. I leave you to your muffin then, Miss Hooves, and next year you'll take the EWPPCT by storm." Steel Grip continued chuckling as he retreated to the cave he had appeared from. Left to her own devices, Derpy Hooves took one look at the muffin in her hoof, and the razor-sharp visage instantly turned into a cross-eyed stare of unbridled love for the treat before her. She took a bite, and it felt as if the universe had opened to her and given her the secrets of life, the answers to the mysteries no pony could answer, as if it connected her to the infinite expanses of the universe on a level no Earth pony, unicorn, Pegasus, alicorn, changeling, dragon, griffin, or even Draconequus could have ever would experience.
Muffin.
And that's it. That's my recording. I did it. Yay! And it's that time that everyone hates, the time we end the show. For those of you who wish to submit fictions to us, the email to send them to is readrainboom@gmail.com. That is readrainboom@gmail.com. If you didn't quite catch that, don't worry, it's on the screen. Make sure to include fanfic on the subject line, and also put a link to the fiction in the email. Keep in mind, not every fanfic will be read, so don't rage at us if they aren't. Any comments or suggestions other than fanfics can be sent to us at that email as well. Also, as stated before, we have a set of rules for fictions, which are: 1. The fictions must be PG-13, no exceptions. 2. The fictions must be completed. 3. Authors can submit their own story, but cannot be selected without fan support. 4. Fics should not be too short or too long. This week we made exceptions, but fictions preferably 2,500 words or more are what we want. 5. Not too many key characters. We have a limited crew. I hope you all enjoyed watching this show as much as we did making it. And now, it is time to leave. Read on, every pony. Read on.